Alright guys, and welcome back to the channel. Right, as promised, I'm going to be test fitting the turbo engine inside this Vauxhall Nova body shell. But before I can do that, we need to sort out the engine mounts. So in a previous video, we'd already filled these with PU adhesive just to make them nice and strong. These are original Nova mounts. It just makes them a bit stiffer. We've bought this brand new conversion mount. This is for the offside of the engine, off the shelf. It's about 35 quid off eBay, nice and easy. That's a standard rear Nova mount. As you can see, it's got 2 bolt fittings. That will fit the F20 gearbox. However, I always recommend fitting these. These basically convert it from a 2 bolt mount to a 3 bolt mount. The 5mm thick, so you essentially got 2 that go on one side, 1 go on the other, and that also gives it a 10mm spacing, which pulls the engine over a little bit more to give you a little bit more alternator clearance. And then the front gearbox mount, believe it or not, is a standard Nova one, and it fits the F20 gearbox, so nice and simple. Right, these rear mounts. Now you can just space this off 10mm to give you a little bit more alternator clearance, and use some washers or a bit of flat bar, and then use 2 bolts through here into the F20 gearbox. It'll work, but in my opinion, it's not good enough. Obviously, if it's only got 2 bolts holding it in, if you accelerate violently, the engine's going to move. Eventually, these bolts are going to twist, they're going to snap, and if your gearbox drops down, which it will do, it could pull the steering wheel, it could do loads of horrible things. So we're going to fit these proper spacers, which incorporates a 3rd bolt design, which will bolt onto the F20 gearbox. Now to fit them, you have to do a little bit of work. Now there's a few ways of doing this. You can either just cut this little bit out there, so that slots in nicely, and that's it. Or the way I tend to do it is I tend to cut it out, and then I weld these in just to make it a lot stronger. You're not relying on any kind of friction, then you know that's all adhered to one piece of metal, nice and strong. And then when you bolt it up, you kind of know that these aren't going to come loose at least. So I think we're going to do it that way. So I'm just going to start off by marking exactly where I need to cut. As you can see, this bit here is the issue. So I need to cut that bit out there, and the same on that side. And then I'm going to cut it with a 1mm cutting disc on the grinder. Right, these have all been cleaned back now, and this is ready to be welded onto here. Right guys, as you can see, I've welded them two together, and there's one on the outside. So we've got 10mm, 5mm, gearbox clamped to here. So that's a 10mm spacer, and now I need to weld these onto the engine mount. And as you can see, that isn't going anywhere. So I'm just going to dress it back, and then I can test fit it, and obviously I'll paint it at a later date. And there we go, all bolted up nicely. This is just a dummy gearbox I'm going to be using just to make sure everything fits. Right, so I've just bolted the dummy gearbox to the dummy block. I'm now going to winch it up, put it into place, and I can stick a head on it, put the turbo on it, and just make sure everything clears properly. There we go guys, it's in, bolted up. Now I did struggle to get the rear mount aligned. I don't know why, but what I did in the end was I loosened all the mounts off, put the rear one on first, then put the rest in, and it does seem to be okay now, so who knows, eh? Right, next job, I'm going to stick a cylinder head on it, stick a turbo on it, and see where things fit. And the first problem we got is that does not fit there. So I need to make a little incision here, make that fit. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut across this line here, across the top so it doesn't look rough. So from the top, you're not going to really know it's been done. Trim a bit away and see if it fits. I think it will. And there we go, as you can see, all cut back. Now I will obviously dress it a lot more when I get the engine back out. But for now, just to test the fit in, that's pretty good. And most importantly, it does fit. Although I will say it's a little bit tight. Right, next job is the radiator and intercooler. So first off, I'm going to remove the spot welds from this bit here, this brace. That allow me to put the radiator through the front, nice and easy. And then once the intercooler is mounted, I'll make a new brace because this just isn't suitable. It's going to be in the way. Voila. One radiator, not really fitted. Oh, there's a bit more space than there is on mine. My engine sits much further forward on my SR for some reason. There's this actually got quite a lot of room, which is good. So, plan is to centre the radiator like so. And then the intercooler should just fit down here, I've been told. Right, so this temperature switch has got to come off. Now, I have looked into other options. You can get these but go in the top hose. I might even be able to cut that down and solder some wires on the end, just so it's a bit narrower. But we'll get it fitting first and then go from there. These are going to have to go. That's definitely not going to fit in like that. So yeah, I'm going to have to make a little incision. Right, so once again, this is obviously going to need dressing up a little bit afterwards, but I'm just trying to make sure everything fits to start off with. So, radiator. Beautiful job, that. Intercooler. Next job, I just need to mark the holes for the rad. As you can see, rad's fitted nicely. Obviously, I need to make some kind of mount at the top, but that's pretty good, and there's loads and loads of radiator clearance. Right, there we go. I'm absolutely dripping with sweat now. It's quite a warm day. I really ought to take my hoodie off, really. But the intercooler is actually fitted, and it fits really, really nicely. So I just have to make a stay now, and then we're away, really. I even think that's going to fit with a little bit of modification. So as you can see, I've just knocked this support panel up. Works really well. Slots in the front end like so. And then what I'll need to do is just drill this. I'm going to put some rib nuts underneath it. I'm going to put a bit of foam tape behind here to stop it rattling. That, as you can see, is nice and strong again. Right, so now that brace is done, the last thing I really need to do is drill a hole here and a hole here for the wiring loom to go through. Now, a lot of people just run the loom across here, which is where it would go in a normal Cavalier, and then down there. But I don't like seeing this bit. I like this bit to be nice and clean and tidy. So if you run it here, it kind of goes underneath the turbo cover, like so. You can't see any of it. It's a little top tip from me. So I put the battery back in just so I've got a good idea where it is, and because obviously I don't want the loom to hit it. And basically, it wants to be just about there. One bit of metal. That's the first hole, and then the second hole is just going to go down here. Just like so. Right guys, I'm bloody exhausted, but I think that is the engine mock-up about sorted now. So I'm going to pull it back apart, and then I can start prepping for paint, and that's going to be next week's video. So, like always, please show support by liking, leaving a comment, and subscribing to the channel. See you next week, guys. See you later. Bye-bye.